you all to be able to sit down and listen and learn something new. I know it's tempting to multitask, but I encourage you signed up for this today, for this hour to come and listen and to learn. So I really encourage you to avoid the multitasking if you can. I know it's a difficult ask, but I believe in you and I know you can do it. All right, one more thing to start recording. Awesome. Hello, everyone.
Be able to sit down and listen and learn something new.
I know it's tempting because I'm overhearing myself. Awesome. Well, we're back after a little bit of a 2-week break from recording. If that's not obvious, because, it takes a little bit of practice to get back up on that bike, but I'm so happy to be here with all of you. This is our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversation from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughn, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. Join the movement, join our community at www.togetherindigital.com. I'm very excited to be here with all of you today to have a conversation around something has obviously been a big topic for a lot of us. It's interesting because AI has been around for quite some time, and yet it's become more pervasive. I would even say within the last few months, all of a sudden, it's in a lot of the headlines. It's in a lot of conversations. So super excited to have Christina here with us today. She is the VP of Marketing at the lead B2B e-commerce tech company, RevOps. I've got this. It's okay. Christina is an expert in driving growth through data-driven strategies, innovative technology solutions. Before joining ResellerRatings, Christina held leadership roles in several technology companies where she led successful award-winning campaigns to increase brand awareness, customer satisfaction, and drive growth. Christina is also a frequent speaker at industry events, i.e. Demand Gen Report, HubSpot, and Inbound. Excited to see you at a few of those this year, Christina, in IRL. Yeah. It'll be fun. And featured in various publications as ZoomInfo, Exceed.AI, HubSpot, Retail TouchPoints on topics such as customer engagement, growth, demand gen, UGC, RevOps, data-driven marketing, and AI. Obviously, what we're here to talk about today. She's also an award recipient of Demand Gen Report B2B Technologies of the Year, Zapier First Marketing Ops Award, and then Cleveland's Top 20 over 35. Thanks for being here with us today, Christina.
Thank you. And thank you for the great intro. I was like, oh, that's me. I've done that.
Right? Take it all in. Appreciate it because you're doing some badass stuff. In fact, I came across you because a fellow member had sent a video that you had created talking about how to leverage Zapier in ways that I really hadn't thought of before. And I want to encourage, can you explain a little bit of that video to everybody really quickly? And then we will drop a link in the chat and in the show notes as well, so you all can kind of go back and get some of that goodness.
Yeah. So in that video, I was describing how I create my outline or my basis for blog posts. And what I do and what I also send to my team is this Excel sheet, a Google sheet that they can put any question they want, if it's an idea for a blog post or whatever it would be. And then it automatically sends it to ChatGPT. And then ChatGPT writes the blog post. And as you know, it's not going to be perfect. So you edit it as it goes, or it's sometimes not a full blog post, but it gets you going and getting those ideas. And so after that is created, it sends me a Slack message. And so I go check and see how I like it. And then I react to that Slack message. And then that triggers a thing back to ChatGPT, and it creates social posts for that blog post, and it sends it right to HubSpot. So that is the whole thing on that. And I can send a link to that template on the Zap. And the thing that also helps a lot with those is also me sending the prompts to use for those conversations.
Yeah, prompts are definitely important as you begin to kind of play and mess around with it. I know I didn't have it in my list of questions, but for anybody that is new to AI or hasn't even tried it yet, what are some what guidelines do you have for kind of prompting with and using AI for content and language generation?
Yeah, so that actually and this is probably an answer that people are like, oh my gosh, but You literally have to learn as you go, because what I've learned is I say to it, it's kind of like a real conversation. I say, hey, I want to figure out XYZ. Can you do this? And then they say like, yes. And it usually explains it. And then I kind of get it to tell me what the prompt should be for the end result I need it to be. And so from there, I kind of keep going to get more information out. And that's how I learn how to do it. So then next time I know exactly how to prompt it to get the result I need.
That's wicked smart. I love it. You're like reverse engineering the AI.
Yeah.
Cool. That is
Exactly.
brilliant. All right. Well, we're going to nerd out about AI some more here soon. And then in the meantime, I'm kind of curious in the chat, those of you who have used it, like give us a 1, give us a 2 if you haven't tried it yet. I kind of want to do a casual poll to see how many of our live listening audience have actually tried it yet. I'm assuming if you're listening, maybe you fiddled with it. But we're going to back up for a minute while everybody sends in their 1s or 2s. And can we just have you tell us a little bit more about your career, your journey, and how you got here? We always love hearing those kinds of stories as well.
Yeah. So I've really always been in the B2B tech space, except in the early days of my career, I was more on like the PR side for luxury brands. And a couple of years after I graduated college, I moved to Dubai and I worked on really big campaigns with Emirates Airlines, Rolls-Royce, Pampers. And as I was in that like luxury space with like Emirates, Rolls-Royce, and then developing apps for Pampers, like if anybody has a baby and you have the Pampers like baby book app, like I was part of that launch. And I learned that I did not want to be in like the PR luxury space because I loved the tech side of things because I was working with the people that were doing those things in the agency. So at the time I knew about HubSpot and I was taking their certification courses and I kind of was like, hey, I want to work at a place like HubSpot, like a SaaS B2B model. So I essentially came back to the States and I worked for a very big technology company. And I got into strategy, I got into operations, and I just kind of kept going with it. And then I really realized that my strength was combining or working with sales and marketing teams to really drive the needle, talking to sales, saying, hey, what are we doing as marketers that is not helping you? Like, what can we do to help you? And so on and so forth, even like the marketing team as well, like, hey, we need to figure out XYZ for the sales team to help them produce revenue, because essentially that's going to help us, especially when we're doing attribution modeling, even though that's not 100% accurate all the time, but still it can go back to us. And so that is kind of my journey in a nutshell. And I will say now I just kind of every day I'm like learning more about what I love doing. And then it kind of just happens that that's the stuff I'm good at. Yeah. And so then I just keep running with it. And I experiment a lot with AI things and creating like an app. Like I told like Amy earlier today, I never have done that before. And I'm trying it out. And honestly, ChatGPT is helping me. because I'm like, how do you do this? So that I go on doing it that way.
Yeah. I've decided that ChatGPT and just AI in general is like, it's my new favorite coworker. It's just like the easiest thing to make all of our jobs easier. Yes. And if you're a small business with limited resources, people and finances, it's like, at least as it stands right now, I am waiting for the day when ChatGPT is no longer free. But it's one of those things where it's like, it creates a bit of a democracy for an equality for smaller businesses, because you can basically almost behave and act and operate like a bigger business. You know, if you've got the ability to leverage and understand and know the zaps. And I love that you're constantly chasing like new knowledge, and it just makes you like, you're such a good fit for the community, because that's how we are at Together Digitals. We are learning junkies. If there's some new platform to kind of explore, or if there's some new technology to be out there, you know, sometimes there might be hesitancy towards it initially. But I do think that like AI, especially, it's not a fad. It's something that's going to continue to grow and be a part of our lives. And it's like, how do we figure out how to leverage it in a way that is meaningful and effective, and still upholds the quality of our work, but then at the end of the day too, makes our lives a whole hell of a lot easier.
Yes. Yes. And I also feel like for me, as an adult, I was like diagnosed with like ADHD. And so for me, it helps me with my day, even with like managing my day. I kind of like ask it, like, here's like my priorities, like help me map it out. And it's kind of like what like the Motion app does too. And I just created it to be like my own assistant per se. And also just helps me throughout my day if I am stuck on something and I'm like, I can't think of what this thing is, or I can't think of a new way to do something. It kind of helps me just like re-energize my brain.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I love it. All right. So what are some of your favorite forms of AI to use right now?
I feel like for me, some of my favorite forms are not like specifically ones I use. I will say, and this is not something like I personally use, but I have some friends that are blind or that they're like hearing impaired, and AI has truly helped them experience things in ways that they haven't before. For instance, I have a really good friend who she's on TikTok, and she's blind, like born 100% blind, and she is like I guess she's like an influencer on TikTok because she's teaching people how different accessibility features on technology helps her, but then also she just kind of also makes fun of some features that are literally don't work for her. So she she like calls out companies, and I think it's kind of great. But from her, I learned my own like company and our own technology, like, hey, maybe we should like use her to say, if we develop a new feature, like, let's see how it actually works. Are we doing the right things? But besides that, I will say for me, my favorite form is anything I can create in Zapier that makes our team more efficient and productive. I also will say that, so HubSpot's kind of ChatGPT, well, it's the plugin with HubSpot, but it's called like ChatSpot. And it helps, it's my favorite form. It's kind of like a chatbot, essentially, like ChatGPT is, but it's specifically to your instance of HubSpot. And so I'm like, how many companies do we have in Ohio? And they can like tell me that, and so instead of me having to create a report on that, I can easily do that. So I feel like that's like one of my favorite forms per se. And then, I mean, who doesn't love and I'm sorry if I set this off, but their Alexa or like anything with like their Siri, like helping that's obviously my favorite form of AI because it helps me. And some people, even like I talk to my parents about this, and they think AI is like something that they can't understand or they can't like do, but they probably use it every day and they don't even know it because of their Alexa or like Google Maps, so it does like help my everyday. But I would say my favorite forms is really just, I would say ChatGPT or anything that I can create in Zapier to make my team more efficient.
Absolutely. I've definitely been excited and encouraged to see like what Canva's been doing from an imaging standpoint and from a creation standpoint too, because I mean, I kind of came up in the time for advertising and design where you had to, pay hundreds of dollars to get Adobe, and it was pretty arduous and heavy, and you have to manage and understand updates. And there's definitely a time and a place and a space for that. But at the same time, again, creating more accessible experiences for all businesses of all sizes and students. I think it's just really interesting to see. I was playing around the other day with it where you can kind of basically you put in an outline and it makes a presentation for you. I'm like, and even if I don't love it, which is likely the case, again, always, whatever you put in for AI, what you get out needs some TLC. But as you said, it's such a great way to just kind of get everything out because there's some things that you might not catch. So like, even for me, we were talking about this in one of my Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses courses. A lot of small business owners, mostly food and catering type businesses, so not super tech savvy, really were just like, we don't know about this. We don't love this. But then they talked about, putting into ChatGPT, just like a basic contract, like give me a basic contract form for a vendor or for an employee. And it gives you that. I mean, granted, you want to take that and have it looked at by a lawyer, but like now you don't have to pay them a couple $100s for them to like write it up for you in an hour or somewhere else. And they were all like, there was a lawyer at my table. And I was like, let's do this. Let's see what it looks like. And we just asked for a basic 1099 contract with some basic data of like what we plug in, the company name, the salary, all that. And he looked it over and he was like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, I would make some tweaks to this to like, protect my client if it was the employee or the employer. He's like, but yeah, I mean, that's a really great start. So it is really interesting to see how, again, across verticals, even you can use it. And to your point, like voice has been one that's been around that we kind of take for granted now.
Yeah.
I laughed the other day. I have to share this story because I haven't shared it anywhere yet. This is definitely a sign of the times. My son accidentally called my daughter Alexa. He was like, he's like, Alexa, I mean, Clara. Yeah. I was like, wow, you just used AI for your sister. That happened 10 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to just choose to be amused by that.
That's great.
Right. So outside of helping to generate ideas, baseline content, things like that, what have you noticed about AI's impact on the effectiveness? Because a lot of us here are marketing folks and advertisers. Has it helped the effectiveness of your marketing and advertising campaigns, and how?
Yeah. So I would say this is kind of a form. I mean, it is a form, but how it helps the effectiveness is the personalization that you can get is way deeper than what you could normally do, as well as the predictive analysis that can help your business, whether it be like revenue forecasting or really anything when it even comes to personalization. And you can even change up your personas probably very quickly, because you could say, this is my persona XYZ, but then you can use your like AI predictive analysis, seeing how habits are going on in your CRM and see if that's actually true. So for us, that has been like a pretty big part of how we use AI, and looking at our use even of our platform, like of our software, and seeing the polls we can get from that with our user data, and then our personalization we can use for our campaigns or upsells, and or even like add on different campaigns because of their habits within our platform. And that's all really powered by the use of AI.
That's amazing. Yeah, that takes me back to it. I was writing for Ford. I had just come back to the agency world, and I was a search optimization copywriter, and I would have to sit there and fill out bulk sheets of spreadsheets of like the same ad with the same number of characters, but then have to modify the city and then the make of the vehicle, and then also the model too, because it was like Lincoln, Mercury, and Ford at the time. And I remember I nearly got roped into being a strategist because I had basically got sick of it, all the copy, cut, and pasting and manual work, and figured out how to leverage Excel spreadsheets.
Like formulas.
But to essentially say, like, if I write this baseline copy, here are all my cities, here are all my makes and models, put it together for me. I mean, this was like 10 years, 13 years ago. I don't know. I'm not going to count the number of years. But I mean, it's just a small example of how like that kind of tedious and mindless work that often could result in error as well was being done manually. And as soon as I was able to kind of run those Excel formulas, all of a sudden I freed up so much of my time and was able to write some TV spots and, do so many more cool projects that required more creativity because I wasn't spending all my days doing that. So a little, not quite AI, but, a little early AI to help cut through the systems.
I mean, formulas do help a lot. So, I mean, that could be, it's like early on.
Right. Because now it's constantly learning, right? It's like that learning of it that is so fascinating. So to your point too, I can imagine from, marketing and advertising standpoint, how much more better data can we collect now and get. Whereas before we had this problem of big data where we had so much and we had no way to derive it, figure out what were the things that mattered the most. AI is going to be a lot more efficient than our little brains ever will be, and collecting and putting out that.
And I feel like, some people hate that they get an ad on like Instagram or whatever, they get the ad on and it's like, oh, it has to be listening to me. But it's truly like your habits and things like that. And like, that is like AI, but I mean, I always give it up to the marketers. I'm like, this person knows what I'll say she is doing. Like, she is killing it with this, because it's so hyper targeted and so like, just, I think it's so incredible I take it as positive when I get those.
I do too.
But I also then I'm like, why are you doing this? Because now I'm buying something. Like, it's so bad. They always get me.
Always. Well, and I love it because relevancy, right? Marketing is the right time, right place, right conditions. And, I don't want a million ads or messages. We already get so much coming at us in a day. I want the stuff to get smarter. So you just show me what I want and need, maybe even before I know that I want and need it, so that I don't have to think about it when I do finally need it, versus kind of just having to get bombarded by constant messaging, which is where marketing and advertising has been for so long, that we've become almost numb and immune. I'm kind of curious to see, as all of AI gets leveraged in it more, targeting gets more specific, more relevant. It kind of also has maybe a positive effect on how much of that stuff we're having to take in on a daily basis, I hope.
Yes, I completely agree with that.
A quick aside too, Amber had posted a link into the chat, one of our live listeners. We'll share it in the show notes too. It is a gpt0.me to detect whether content was created by AI. I realize, like, we're talking today and very much in the context of marketing and advertising, but I do understand, like, from an academic standpoint, that could be a whole nother podcast and conversation, that the concern of, quote unquote AI plagiarized, I guess, content is an issue. My husband's a professor. Luckily, he's a mathematician, so he doesn't have to have written papers, but I totally understand, like, how, academics, it's a big concern.
Yes. And with that, I feel like it can be detect, but you also know by the student based on, like, their previous work, Right,
exactly.
And so that, but also if they're using something that they'll probably use in their daily life and work anyway, because it's so common there. It's hard to say, but obviously not word for word, but because you don't want to take it word for word, regardless of where you're putting it, online or on paper. But I think it's good to help, but obviously not to send in your papers just straight that way.
Well, and I was talking to a professor from Babson College, and he was saying, in order to address it, he's just started doing multiple choice instead of essay questions for tests or take-home exams or anything like that. Just looking at the way that we're testing and asking people to work through stuff. And I think too, it's just, maybe we can focus more on critical thinking. And leveraging and using technology in the right ways, and helping kids learn how to balance checkbooks and things like that, things that they don't just in school right now. Like, but I love your point that, it's important to make sure you're not plagiarizing, but it is obviously, technology that when they go out into the quote unquote real world, it's going to be out there, So helping them learn how to use it responsibly in the right way is important.
Yes, for sure.
Obviously. Okay, great. So next, how can you give us an example of a successful marketing campaign that you all did, possibly, that utilized AI technology?
Yeah. So besides the ones app I talked about, there's two things that, like, were specifically AI that we used. So one was, and it's not really a marketing campaign, but it has to deal with the customer and revenue. So I'm just going to talk about it. We had this process that was crazy when it came to a customer becoming, like, closed won. They signed the contract and whatever. It took so many steps, so many people. It was just crazy. So I was talking to my CRO and, like, our accounting head, and I was like, okay, so I'm going to figure this out. So basically I created this one Zap that once one thing was triggered within HubSpot, then it triggered within PandaDoc, then it triggered back to HubSpot, and then it went to ChargeBee. And so all of that happened within, like, seconds, when it really would happen within, like, 5 or 6 days prior to, because it had to be human elements of it. And so it helped our sales team close more and quicker, but then also it helps, like, the human error aspect of it. And so that's not like marketing campaign, but essentially, it goes back to time saved and things like that. Another campaign that we did that was really driven by AI, and it was actually an AI platform called Exceed.AI. And it really was Exceed.AI is a platform that you can use for email or chat essentially, but it's not just like a normal marketing automation platform. It actually responds to people back and forth. Like you could have no idea this person is a chat, and we named the person, and we had two, and one was Avery and one was Emily, and we're like, wait, is Avery this one? It was like we were talking. Someone literally thought it was an actual two employees. So like we never met them. We're like, they're not people, like but it was always so funny, and we really helped our team like book more meetings with it through these like outreach marketing campaigns, because we were also learning what people were wanting to know about us. So then we were writing content based on their questions. And then also you can train the AI or the person, Avery or Emily, on common questions that we would get back. So then it would just send that instead of pinging us saying, hey, like, the software would say, hey, I don't know the answer to this. Can you help us out? So we were teaching the bots these things, and then they would just keep going and going. So it really helped us book more meetings and just increase awareness of our brand. And the one really cool thing that we realized, some of our customers were not talked to for like years, just because they were like unmanaged, just based on their spend with us. And when we were, I laugh about this all the time, because I have this one example that always makes me laugh. Is one of our customers, we didn't talk to her for a long time. I think it was Avery. Emily is for customers. And it went back and forth. And then they talked about how great this person was. And we're like, hopefully they don't ask to come online, because this is going to be like, I was like, should I wear a wig? Like, how is this going to work? And so it's just, and it's really, and it also goes back to the thing of AI. You can never teach AI to be like human, but you can get them to talk how you want your brand to be. Like you can train it that way, but the whole like empathetic and stuff like that, you probably can't train yet. I mean, I don't think you'll ever be able to train full emotions, but those are two campaigns that we really did to help, one, like with our just consistency in our brand messaging, but then also in our outreach, in our inbound and outbound efforts for our marketing to help sales, essentially, because I'm a huge revenue generating marketer. And so when I'm doing my campaigns, that's really my end goal. Like, yes, new leads and things like that are great, but I want the sale and I want the upsell, so I can like prove that to our exec team.
That's amazing. I mean, that's like a whole other area that I don't think is being talked about a lot, is like looking and using AI for customer relationship management and for lead, because it is such a long, arduous, daunting process. I know if I had to sit on one side of the fence or the other, marketing and advertising or sales and lead gen, I'd probably sit on the other side of that fence. You're the yin to my yang, Christina.
Yes. Yes. And the thing is like, I love the branding side too, and I love being part of that, but I'm also like, how can we make this also revenue generating and have it be this way? Just because I've always thought that way. And I was talking to someone about this, but I've always been like an athlete, or like very like competitive. And when I was in Girl Scouts, which was a very long time ago, I opened up like the phone book and the church directory, and I went down and I called everybody for Girl Scout cookies. And I sold like 10,000 Girl Scout cookies one year. And my parents had to put an ad in the newspaper saying, if you bought Girl Scout cookies from this person, say it. So I always look back to that. I'm like, that's probably why I am the way I am now as a marketer.
You were born into it. That's so funny. It's so true. I hear that time and time again too. So those of you who are out there kind of struggling with like, what do I do? Who am I? What should I be doing? I think you're another great example of leaning into your strengths and owning those strengths, and rather than focusing too much on your weaknesses, and like really almost exploiting those kind of key gifts that you have and that you honestly have from a relatively young age. Because I often joke and say, when I was a kid, 8-year-old Amy had clubs, for inclusivity that were going to help save the planet or do something. And then here I am, running a community organization for women, trying to find ways to save the world, or at least earn us all more money as women. But yeah, it is just so funny. So yeah, I think that's a great message. And thank you for sharing that story. I love hearing anecdotes. It's so great.
No problem.
And then also I wanted to mention too, we talked about that with, tone, like you can actually ask AI, they'll write something and you're like, make it more conversational. And
Yes.
sometimes it'll kind of overcorrect, which is fine.
Yes.
Again, like
Yes.
you got to go on and massage things.
Mhm.
I love that, you can start to ask for those specific types of things and what it's giving you
Yes.
back. It's amazing.
It really is. And I have an example of that because one time I was like, this sounds so boring. I was like, make it interactive, fun, engaging. And then it like sent back and it was like all of these emojis, all of the things. I'm like, not that much, but like
Right?
a step back.
I was back about 50%.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I like the energy, but let's tone it down just a bit.
Right? Oh, that's so funny. What are some other ways that AI has helped you all kind of personalize customer experiences? You mentioned that earlier. I want to dig into that some more too.
Yeah, I would say it honestly in the sense of personalization in our outreach and I kind of mentioned it before, but for our usage of our platform.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, we can really help our sales and CS team upsell and do those upgrades if it was like a tier upgrade or just an upsell to product reviews or video marketing, things like that, because our team is busy and we have a small team and we have an even smaller sales team, and our CS team is like probably the biggest team besides like our development team. And that the AI of it just helps them perform better. And another thing that we have done is within our CRM, I created this health score that essentially is a red, yellow, green system that, yes, I could use a software like Gainsight or Turn Zero, but those were expensive and we don't have the money for that. So I had to be scrappy. And it basically is this AI bot that I said, if it's this, have it green, if it's this, yellow, whatever. And so then it pings our team and it says, hey, if it's red and it's been red for 3 weeks, I need to either loop in an exec or they need to either do like a reach out of some type of reward for them to get on a call with us, something like that. So those campaigns have really helped us and we've really improved our relationships with our customers. And then also in the personalization factor of it, it just really helped us get down to what our personas or our ICPs pain points are. Instead of just being very blanketed with it, it's very tailored to pain points. And those are researched, and those are researched based on even ChatGPT, and then surveys that we have with our customers. And then it's created this kind of like AI system within our marketing channel that pushes out this content based on their specific needs. And that can be done without creating something that's crazy, like I just talked about. Like if you have really any marketing automation system, you'll probably have personalization tokens. And then if you have like a HubSpot CMS, you have smart content, and you can do like literally, if based on title, you can change what a website looks like. And it's just a few tweaks on things on your end, but on that end, it's like completely different journey.
I love it. That is so cool. Yeah, I love the fact of pain points. That also it reminds me of a great complimentary podcast episode for y'all to listen to for all of us constant learners. I don't know if you've seen her book out yet, Nancy Harhut. It's using behavioral science for marketing. I think coupling technology of AI, but then also leveraging AI to gain and gather and garner those insights can be really tremendous. Because what you were talking about, those pain points, or what she talks about with hot points, it's like people don't make decisions, purchase decisions based on logic. It's like 80% emotion, and it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't how big or small the ticket item is. It's actually more an emotion than almost anything else.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just autopilot. So if you're going beyond autopilot, like I'm grabbing a jar of pasta off the shelf because I'm making pasta this week, even that there's some probably emotion behind it too.
Yeah. It's like Alfredo marinara,
You're right. I just started having visceral emotional feelings about pasta sauce, and I'm like, all the choices, what do I feel like? And yeah, I'm eating all the carbs anyhow. But yeah, I think that's a really great, and Julie, thank you. She dropped in the past episode, So those of you who are listening or want to go back and take a listen afterwards in the show notes, it'll be there too. Just, I think there's really awesome complementary things there as well as we continue to learn, because those are the insights that we have and that we hold that we can validate, that we look at what the technology tells us, and then we could be the ones to test it and figure out whether it's right, or work in like our gut, our observances, qualitative analysis as well. That's
and
awesome.
on that, Amy, I have a thing that I'm creating right now, and it's based on emotion, kind of. Well, it pulls into emotion, and it goes into AI as well. So as you guys probably know, or you might not know, but a lot of marketing or a lot of old shows that we used to watch are having podcasts, or they're getting rebooted. So like that nostalgia is so tied to emotion, and you can do incredible things with that, with your marketing. And so what I'm creating right now, I'm building this basically campaign that's built on nostalgia, and it's tied to different shows of different demographics that are in our CRM and it's like for our cold leads. So it's kind of like a warm touch to cold leads essentially. Oh, cool. And I've broken it down by, and it's hard because obviously we don't have like birthday. So I can't be like, oh, you watched 902.0, you watched Gilmore Girl. Like it's hard to like do it obviously that way, but I'm doing it based on like titles. And I know that can be here or there because titles could be whatever, but you're going to get some type of reaction with that. And so I'm kind of doing, and I'm picking various ones of the popular shows within the past 25 years or so. And this is just me testing it out to see like what it works. And my CEO, my CRO are like, you want to do what? I'm like, just let me do it, because it's either going to be really, really great or it's not, but I bet you it's going to be better than just like a random email we send. Like, it's going to be, people are going to remember it. If not right now, they're going to go back to it because it's going to be funny. It's going to tie to emotion, and it's going to be really tailored to them.
Yeah, I like nostalgia as well. I've worked with a few agencies where they kind of tried to create those constructs of like, as we're creating content, we're not just thinking of themes of content, but we want to think about the emotion trying to elicit. And obviously, fear is kind of there, but sometimes it feels like a cheapened tactic to kind of create scarcity when there maybe no need for scarcity, or exclusivity when there doesn't need to be. So it feels a little more exploitive. Whereas nostalgia is like this combination of joy and sadness at the same time. And those are two very strong central emotions for us. So I agree. I think you're onto something. I want to hear how it performs.
Yes.
Because
I'll come back.
The trend is absolutely there. I think it's even, I wonder if there's even a word for it, but I think it's also interesting when like we have nostalgia for the things that we were not even around for. So like I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and we thought the 50s and sock hops were so cool and cute. And now my kids, in 2023 think the cool stuff from the 90s and the 80s are really cool. So
even 2000s. I've heard there's 2000s parties. I'm like, we're there already. Like what?
Oh no.
Oh no. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh goodness. So here we go. The joy of getting older. But I do think there's something absolutely there for the sake of nostalgia, and not just for like that specific, age demographic. I think you will get nostalgia even with those who maybe skew a little bit younger, who even have those titles. So I'm excited to hear how that works out.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
All right, let's see what else we got here. We're going to have time at the end for questions too, so don't be shy about adding them into the chat, live listening audience. How has the role of marketers and advertisers evolved with the rise of AI technology? Obviously, a lot of people feel a little nervous, a little scared, but how do you kind of see the role for marketers and advertisers evolve?
Yeah, so I know there's like talk when people are like, oh, it's going to take over my job, blah, 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 blah. I will say in some instances, there'll be parts of your job it won't take your job. And it'll take things of your job that you probably don't love doing. Like, honestly, like for me, we talked about just even like planning my day out. You can plan my day out and tell me like what to do really, or like keep me on task, things like that. Or I call it just like brain space, essentially. Like I can't think of this right now. So ask a question. So it's going to help everybody. Like, I honestly think so many different like titles or different areas of business, not just like marketers, advertisers, but it's going to help them think broader, but also relate more. So I feel like it's just going to keep evolving. And honestly, it's hard to think about where it can be in a year because of where it has been in the past 6 months. It's so crazy how much it's ramped up, or even just there. And the thing that's so cool, and I think is 1000% essential, is if you are in the B2B SaaS space, you have to have some element of AI in your platform, or it will not be as successful. And the thing that's so cool now with ChatGPT, OpenAI, is you can literally you can create like what HubSpot did. You can create basically the ChatGPT within your chatbot, like on your site, and they could ask really any question about, like, there's limitless things you can do with it. It's just putting it into action and being okay with being uncomfortable with it and like kind of that learning curve. But I truly don't think it's going to take all of our jobs. Like, it's just not. It can help our jobs, yes. There might be some jobs it will take, but I don't see it in the sense of being a successful thing, because like we said, it's never going to be an actual human. It is artificial intelligence. It's not going to be a human. So it's going to involve with us, and it's going to help us. Like, that's what I'm taking a positive spin on it. It's helped me since I've started working with it more. And like you mentioned, Canva, another platform that is really great that helps me is Copy.AI. And I was following their founder on LinkedIn. And I remember he was talking about the number of users that were like new users he had with when everything was going on crazy with ChatGPT, when it was like a wait list with ChatGPT, it's like hundreds of thousands he like got right away. And then they have one of his really cool elements, I guess you can say, of his platform is you put a link to someone's LinkedIn, you put like what you want to talk to them about, and then it spits out an email to say like what you can email them about. And then the same thing with images, and the same thing. There's so many things with it that it's just going to help you as a marketer, as like a customer success, as a salesperson, whatever it would be. It's just going to evolve your career with you. I don't think it's going to limit you. It's just going to give you more opportunities.
Yeah, I saw the question come up and then disappear again about whether or not it would take creative jobs. I feel like we've been asking those kinds of questions for a long time, though. I mean, for well, a decade, and it's still, very much. I mean, there's still plenty of creatives out in the world and in the industry out there. And I think that I think the thing for me, I want to go back to a couple points that you made. One, I think that yes, the speed in which all of this is ramping up feels pretty insane, but then you also think it's 2023 and the amount of digital in our lives now, for video, for voice, everything, now AI on top of it. In 20 years, based on 2023, I mean, 2023, we were still listening to CDs. You're talking about Gilmore Girls. I actually started watching it with my daughter the other night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was in 2006. We had phones. We didn't have smartphones yet. We had no voice within the household. It is amazing to think of how far and how fast it's gone. But another great point you made is that AI is what people expect now, because we are we've got a very on-demand generation that's coming up in the world. And so it's like, if your services or products can't meet those very kind of immediate, urgent, I'm using air quotes, urgent needs of people, then how is your business going to make it? How is your business going to survive? It is coming to what people expect. Those are really great points and kind of reasons as to why to embrace it. Because I guess at the end of the day too, it's like, gosh, well, what if we all just spent a little less time working our asses off and like lived a life, and created art and went for walks outside while AI kind of runs and does some of the things that we need to still tell it to do. Like, we still have to tell it to do things. Like, we're still here. We just might be able to maximize our time and the way that we spend our time with these efficiencies versus being fearful of losing our.
because I also feel too, when I think about it, I think about the consumer and like how they're using our product, but also even our customers' product. So for instance, we're in like the UGC ratings and reviews space. And if there is a element that we're working on that I was actually talking to another company with yesterday. He's the founder of it. And he's more on like the video, searchable video marketing for D2C and like fashion brands. But basically using ChatGPT saying, I like XYZ type of clothes. Give me a list of like the 5-star like from blank the blank retailer, And so like that is something like that. Instead of me thinking, oh, let's really work on it within our platform. No, let's do it within like for our customers, because then that's going to help them be more successful in the long run. So it's thinking about it even for you, your everyday life. Like if you're in B2B and you're like this, I'm never going to have something for me that could be fun for AI, but the end user could, like the end user could be. And essentially it is human to human, whatever. I always say whatever letters are like after the two, so it's a human, and you just want to remember that, but then also make their lives easier. And that's how I make things for AI.
I love it. Great answer. Can you share any potential, so we touched on this a little bit, but ethical concerns of using AI, specifically in marketing and advertising? We don't have to touch on all the legion stuff.
So it's really how you train the AI system, but I have seen and just have witnessed a lot of it being kind of, and I hate to say this, but it's had tendencies of being like, have a lot of like bias, being racist, and there's things that are really not the best with that. And I feel that the more we talk about it and the more we're training, and because we are training the AIs essentially, that it will help that aspect of it. But when it comes to the like plagiarism or kind of copyright of even like art and things like that, taking things like that, it's going to get better, because it's not something that they probably really thought much of when it came to this huge push they put on, especially for like ChatGPT or something like that. But that's okay. So that's why you always should check the work before you use it, really. Yes. And that's really anything you do that comes down to it. So it's hard to answer that question fully to an extent of, it's really just be smart, be smart with it. Don't copy it word for word. I mean, that's just anything, but then also really, really think about it in the sense of what they're talking about, like the demographics they're talking about, and things like that. Because as you guys probably have heard also, like Workday they're in a huge pickle right now between their AI system and things that it did. So it's just be smart with it and don't be dumb. That's
check the work. Completely human. Still do the work. Don't let the bots. It's so funny. I'm so afraid the bots are gonna take my job, but then you're like, I'll just let them do it and not check the work and just trust it. Nope, can't do that yet. Not there.
Yes,
exactly. Way to go.
And what I do sometimes is I copy and paste it, like once I'm done like rewriting it or exactly from whatever I'm using, and I Google it to see like what it's pulling from. So I can see like what, like they're like plagiarism of it, just kind of like SEMrush has that aspect of it. I also just kind of do that my own like research on it as well.
That makes a lot of sense, and 100% agree with you on the bias. I think that's why it's really important for, especially women, people of color, any minority groups to continue to have access to leverage and use AI, because again, like you are adding information and insight to that, because a lot of this stuff is programmed and developed, as we already know it, by mostly men. And so there's obviously, because it's being still programmed by humans, there's a bias. But by us not being afraid to get in and use it, check the systems, reevaluate the work, correct it when we need to, we can hopefully start to eliminate some of those biases. But I do think that's a great point to watch out for, and definitely something I had in mind when we talked about this question. All right. Sure. Last question, and then we've got time for questions from you folks. Gosh, it's already 50 minutes after this. How do you see AI continuing to shape the future of marketing and advertising?
I'm excited to see where it's going to be. And honestly, it kind of like I mentioned before, I can't even wrap my head around where it's going to be for us. I'm excited truly to see more on the just helping with segmentation, helping with predictive analysis, because yes, it has those elements right now, but it's truly going to shape the future for all of our campaigns to help get to those, I don't want to say perfect, but kind of close to that market that or audience that you want to be, and saying the right things and pulling on those emotions and really just helping you out to get in the mind of your users, or just the mind of really even like the industry you're in. Like I read so much about e-com and UGC and content creation all the time, but I like filter my own way, like, and I like have my own like bias or my own thoughts. So then I don't think about other things. So then that's going to help me think deeper, and it's going to help me become a better marketer. And I'm excited for the future of it. I'm not scared of it because I like a challenge, but I also like to learn and be challenged. So I'm really excited to see it evolve. And again, it's so hard to wrap your head around where it's going to be just based on the things that already are in place, like different things like Jasper or Lavender or like the Canva. There's just there's so many of them. And I will say the one that really needs a lot of work are the ones that are like the videos that are basically like talking heads of them, like talking, and you can tell it's not a person. That is one that needs a lot of work, I will say.
Yeah.
But so I'm excited. I'm honestly super excited for that to evolve, because that's going to save us a lot of money, like a small team, small budget on videos and like LMS and learning, because I'm creating this LMS kind of system for us for a lead gen. And I first used I'm not going to say the tech, but I used it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks so fake. Like at first I loved it, but the more I looked at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do like my voice, a voiceover with just the screen, because I would just be like, what is this? So that's one thing I can't wait to see evolve better or more.
No, that's great. Those are all fantastic points. And I love your point to video. I think that, that's obviously, and it's so fun to kind of see where it's at and like how scary it all is. But at the same time, it's not exactly the same, but I had gone from doing a lot of above the line agency type of, ads, and, the amount of expenses, the travel, the crew, the equipment, all of the pre-work, post-work, it is expensive. And I remember I switched over for a short time to a video marketing studio that was mostly animation. And what I realized was like, all of a sudden the possibilities are limitless. Like I was writing something for a line of products for menopausal women. And I wanted a woman to explode and turn into a pile of ash from a hot flash. I mean, I would have that effect in like live action would have been astronomical, way out of our budget. But we were able to create a whole series of characters and have like the character kind of explode and become glasses and lips. And she kept talking. So, I mean, again, I think that's how I feel like with AI, it's like all of a sudden now your possibilities are limitless, because what you put in, isn't going to be exactly what you get out, but at some point possibly. Yes. All right, exactly. Alyssa, a question for us from our live listening audience.
Perfect.
A second to get to that. What are some AI tools that you would recommend to task organization? That's a great question, Alyssa.
Yes. So Motion is so incredible. It looks at like your calendar and basically your priorities, and then it puts in your calendar time to work on like specific things. It has changed my day. A lot of their ads, and you guys are probably going to get ads now that I'm talking about it. I'm sorry, but a lot of their ads, they joke and they're like, your boss is going to ask if you got a personal assistant, or if you like hired someone, whatever, because it helps you like so much. It helps you like be ahead of deadlines. It helps just organize everything. So Motion is one that I personally would say that is the tool to help with task organization. But that's the one that I've used the most, to be honest. So
we've used and talked about in our goal getters group, Reclaim.AI, which is also a Google well, which is really good at that, because I'm sure Emotion's the same way. I need to check it out, but it's like a balance of personal and professional. So if you're like, I want to make sure I exercise a few times a week, it'll look in your calendar and say, here's when you should exercise. You're like, woohoo. Because I agree, sometimes motion.
Yeah, I'm gonna send the link to it.
Okay. Thank you so much.
I can send it.
So
Yeah.
All right. So
It's
many
loading.
No worries.
And Notion is great too. I will say Notion is a good thing, but just like, yeah, but I'm gonna send you the link right now.
Yeah, Julie got it in there too. She's fast like that.
Oh, perfect. Perfect.
Well, she's our wing woman.
And
She's speedy with it. So.
And I'm sending the YouTube video of the Zap I talked about. And then in the comments, I give the link to the Zap and then I write the prompts. So,
awesome. You will include all of that in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
Christina, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. This was exciting to talk about. I loved all your insights. And I love the way that you're just sharing what you're experiencing, what you're using, and your knowledge. It's especially empowering for, not just, women who are working for companies, but women who are working for themselves. We have a great number of entrepreneurs, solopreneurs within the Together Digital organization. In fact, for those of you who are members, we have an available recording as well. If you're interested in learning more about AI for your business itself, they actually just did a mastermind as well. So you can check that out. But this has been great, Christina.
Yes.
It's been so fun. Thanks for joining us. Like I said, thanks for sharing your power and knowledge of AI. It's changing, whether we like it or not. Way to keep rolling with it and using it to all of our advantage. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if you got to connect with me, I actually do a lot of TikToks on AI, Zaps, and things like that I do. And yeah, one of them is with Canva that I'm posting soon, and it's going to help you a lot if you batch create content. So it will help you out.
All right. Okay. Because Speedy Julie just dropped in her TikTok link as well. So be sure to hop on TikTok and follow Christina. Well, thank you again, everybody. Have a great Friday and a great rest of your weekend. Thanks again.
Yes. Thank you. Bye.